Welcome to another special edition of Wisdom Without the Guru. This time we're going to be talking about discovering your life's purpose. And my guest again is Tracy Fance. And if you don't remember, Tracy was on before with two other special episodes that we had that were about understanding tarot and also meeting and getting to know spirit guides and understanding what that was about. So if you didn't listen to those, please go back and listen because those are quite interesting. We talk about different aspects of that and also questions that I certainly had that I think a lot of people would have that Tracy answered. So Tracy, who is Tracy? So Tracy is a psychic medium and tarot reader, but she also helps people in discovering their life's purpose. So that is why we are talking about that today, because did you even know that you have a life purpose? I'm sure that a lot of us just sort of drift through life and think, oh, what's life about? What are we doing? Or we're in a job and we're thinking, oh, this is just not for me. Why am I here? It just doesn't fit. So maybe this has something to do with your life purpose. So today, Tracy is going to be sharing exactly what that is and maybe give us tips on how we can actually find out what our life purpose is. So welcome again, Tracy. Thank you again. You just have no idea how grateful I am for you doing this because I think that these are things that people are interested in. And it's nice to actually hear from somebody who, um, has gone through your whole spiritual journey and leading to where you are now. And you have been discovering and working with these things actively. So it's an experience that you're speaking from. So what is life purpose? What exactly is that? Are we born with that?
Um, yes, we are born with it. Our soul comes here with multiple missions. So there's kind of
Multiple? That's scary.
multiple. One.
I thought there was only one.
Like one's not enough. Let's just have a load. Um,
Oh no.
you've kind of got your soul's purpose or your life purpose, but you've also got the soul contracts that we spoke about before. So you might have a soul contract with yourself that you're going to learn independence or strength this time or compassion, and they can tie into your life purpose or they can be standalone. Okay. So we love to multitask as humans. It's what we do. So why not do
Thank you, Windows. I swear Windows taught us how to multitask.
Yeah, it probably did actually. And it was designed by a guy, and they don't like multitasking if they can help it. So, so the way I look at life purpose is it's not always something huge like I need to be Mother Teresa or I need to be Gandhi or I need to be, a huge humanitarian like Bill Gates. It may well be that, like I say, because you've got these other soul contracts, that by doing this over here, you can actually achieve this over here. Um, so, for instance, if you take Christopher Reeves, the actor that played Superman, he had a horse riding accident and broke his back, his neck quite high up. It was quite a high lesion. He was a tetraplegic, which meant he didn't have much movement in the arms and upwards. So he was really good as an actor. He did really well. He was famous. And then when he had that accident, suddenly he wanted to do as much as he possibly could for spinal injuries. And back in the day, I can't even remember when he actually had that accident. I've got a feeling it was late 90s, early 2000s. Can't remember.
Yeah, I think it was late 90s. Yeah.
Yeah. Spinal injuries were still like stuck in the dark ages. And I did actually work in a spinal hospital in Stoke Mandeville when I was younger, so I can see that not a lot had changed in that space of time. Um, but he did a lot for that community. Which would he have achieved that had he have not been famous? Quite possibly not. So, whereas the acting may have been his life purpose or his sole purpose and to bring joy to people, it may have actually been that that was just the mechanism to get him here, whereas life purpose was actually to do a lot of good for the spinal injuries community. And the money that he raised, the money he donated, the talks that he did just did so much that the average person on the street just perhaps wouldn't get access to without a lot more effort and stuff. So, it can be big, but it's mostly not. Okay.
So that's what you mean by having more than one life's purpose. So he had the one life's purpose in the beginning to be an actor, and then that led to a second life's purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I see Victoria Beckham the same. She was in this group, she was rich, she was famous, everybody knew who she was. And she just went, no, I'm going over here. I want to do fashion. And her and her husband do a huge amount for charity, most of which they don't even take out social media ads and shout about. But their famous, their celebrityness has given them the ability to do all this humanitarian work. And David Beckham's done a lot for football and helping youngsters that are um, underprivileged to get to where the other guys are that've got the money. And Victoria's done a lot with the fashion. And so, whether you like them or not, they've used this one sole purpose to actually fulfill themselves in another way. Um, and for people like you and I that don't have that high profile aspect to our lives, it can still come out, but obviously we're not going to be known for it in the way that perhaps the Beckhams are. Um, but a lot of the time, people come to me for a reading and they go, "Oh, what's my life purpose?" And a lot of the times they're looking for something hugely profound, like I'm going to be Mother Teresa or Christopher Reeves. And actually, that isn't necessarily what they're here for. It might be that they are meant to do a lot for a particular sector of the community, but in their own quiet way. Um, and so I think people's expectations are generally out of balance with the reality. And that's why they're struggling to see that life purpose because they're looking for something huge.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I guess somebody's life purpose could just be to be a mother and to just and to enjoy being a mother, or yeah, or a life purpose could be just to be able to have the ability to listen to people, to
Hmm.
listen well to people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when people used to come to me, and they were wanted to know what their gifts were, and it was kind of similar to the life purpose kind of thing, and I would say, have you ever noticed when you've walked in a room that, suddenly people are very comfortable and they start talking to you? They were like, "Yeah. Yeah, I do, now that you mention it." But for them, it's just so ordinary.
Mm.
But, okay, so you talked about one thing, soul contract. So, explain what a soul contract is.
Okay. Now, this is only how I interpret it. It's like anything, our senses make sense of something. So, in my mind, based on the stuff I know, I can kind of see my soul sat round this boardroom table with all the people who are going to be important, all from our soul group. So I'm like, right, you're going to be my mother that's going to be really critical, and you're going to be my father that's going to be cold and remote but love me, and you're going to be the person that I'm going to spend my life with as my partner, and you're going to be the person that does such and such that makes me have to get the courage or the confidence to do whatever, and you're going to be my spirit guide, and so on and so forth. So you kind of pick them, and everything in spirit comes from a place of love. There is absolutely no nastiness, no malice, no hate. So even if you take the most challenging relationships, they're not going, I really hate you, so I'm going to be your abusive partner or husband. It's just so not like that.
Or, "I'm getting back at you from the last lifetime when you did it to me."
Yeah, absolutely. It's not like that. It's more like, if I was going to have my life support machine turned off, I would want it to be from someone that loves me, not just some doctor who's got to get round to the next ward. And so if I was going to ask someone to do that, I'm going to ask someone that loves me. And so if I'm going to ask someone to be my super critical parent or my cold, aloof parent, I want the one that I know is really coming from love. And they're probably going, oh, God, please don't make me do that because that's awful. No, I need you to do this. I love you. You love me. I trust you. I know that you'll do this for me. Please, will you play that role? Oh, okay, then yes. All right. Soul contract. Okay. And so it's about the learning. So from a soul contract, both souls are going to learn from that experience, hopefully, and grow. And that's really what it's all about. And so there's more than just one thing going on when we're put on this planet.
Okay. So, why would you have a life purpose? I mean, you kind of sort of touched on it in that answer, but I mean, why would anybody have a life purpose? I mean, some people just, think you're here, you're just going through life, and then whatever happens at the other end when you die. So why why even have a life purpose?
Us humans need a reason to get out of bed in the morning. And our life purpose is to fulfill us and to reward us. And it's generally about being of service to humanity in some way. It's not just about, going to concerts and doing drugs and drink and going, yay, isn't life brilliant? But, lots of people who come to me that are new to this, or if I'm talking to people that are just not into this at all, they'll be like, well, do you know what? Life's really hard, isn't it? You're on this planet and all these people die, and there's all these awful things like tsunamis and earthquakes and wars. It's just like, what is the point? And so for me, without that life purpose, it's got to be really, I don't know, soul destroying to go, oh God, is this it until I die? Whereas knowing that there's a bigger picture and we're here to help the planet and help humanity and help our soul group and to leave the planet better off than when we arrived, that to me gives people more reason to get out of bed and more reason to understand the horrible things on the planet, because out of a lot of that bad comes the good. And so that life purpose feeds our soul and makes it grow.
Okay. And do you think that even people, like the Beckhams or Christopher Reeve or whoever, do you think that they consciously knew that that was their life path, or that was just something that they intuitively did?
It's difficult to say because I haven't got any of them on speed dial.
Okay, well, not them, but just excuse me, Victoria, we have a question for you.
It is a good question. And I would guess that, like most people are either just doing it because it feels right. And then if you go, well, that is your life purpose, they go, oh, oh, okay. Or it's something that they felt really driven to do and it was more conscious. Like you get people, like say take Martin Luther King. The youngsters probably won't know who he is, but people of a certain age will. He really wanted to do something about the racial inequality, and he just felt driven to make the world a better place for his fellow man. And so that's what he did. Now, he might not have thought, oh, this is my life purpose. He might have just thought, I'm really angry about the racism and the inequality, so I'm just not putting up with that. Whereas other people will say that from an early age, they just knew that they needed to be a nurse or a doctor or a policeman, or they just knew that they needed to be a priest or a vicar or a nun or something. And so it really is a mixed bag, to be honest.
Okay. And what happens when you don't follow your life purpose? I mean, what are some of the signs or symbols or smacks that you come up against
Right.
when you don't follow your life purpose?
So it's basically like the miserable animal in the zoo bashing its head on the bars. You're going to be depressed. You're going to feel lethargic. It's going to feel like, oh my God, what is the point? Why am I bothering? Why am I here? Because you're not resonating with your life. And, there's a lot of people these days who are what we call socialpreneurs. So they're entrepreneurial, but they want to do good for humanity and the community. They're not just about making billions and then, living on their super yacht. They're more aligned, which I think is fantastic. And I just think that a lot of people are so unhappy and they hate their jobs. They're doing, 12-hour shifts at, the parcel delivery shop or the convenience shop around the corner, and they're miserable and they're just existing, and they're caught in that uh, vicious circle of, I don't have time to go and find another job because I work such long hours, but I hate my job and I don't want to be here. And they're as likely to end up being signed off sick because their soul is not thriving. But then you would get someone else that might work in that convenience store, and they are the happiest, most balanced person on the planet, and they'll have a laugh with everybody coming in the door, and they'll have a laugh with their colleagues, and they are just absolutely thriving in that role. And so it's very easy to see the people that are not really living their soul's purpose because they're just so unhappy and flat, and their energy just feels like ugh. And so if you're feeling like you don't want to get out of bed and it's like, oh God, here's another day, great, then you are probably not living your life purpose. I mean, everyone has the odd, off day, but if that's how you're getting up and feeling every day, you are not living your life purpose.
So, I'm gonna ask you a very controversial question.
Go on.
Can your soul purpose, your life purpose, and your soul contract be at odds? And I say that because when you talked about soul contract, you talk about, okay, yeah, you're going to come and be the horrible mother for me. So obviously, the horrible mother is not necessarily having a great life. So is her life purpose to be the horrible mother and to have this existence of not being happy and doing terrible things to her child?
I could see that could be the case, but everything's like kind of polarizing. So if I'm that critical mother who's got her own baggage that she's bringing to motherhood, I can choose to get over that criticalness and deal with whatever's driving that, which is probably the way her parents raised her, or her feelings of inadequacy, or whatever it is. Or I can learn to just give into it and let it be what it is. So the free will is how we deal with the environment. Like if you've got the alcoholic parent or the alcoholic partner, do you give in and let them treat you like the punch bag, or do you find a way to get away from it? But as a result of that, you may find that you want to go and work with people who've got addiction, so your soul contract with that alcoholic parent has led you to go and do a huge amount of good, like say the Betty Ford Clinic, that kind of stuff, or the Priory, things like that. So actually, the one can lead to the other, and I see that a lot, a huge amount.
Okay. So that's to say then you've had the soul contract with the mother. She does terrible things to you. She does terrible things to herself. But one day she has the opportunity to make a choice and to, or some people will say that they didn't know that they had a choice, but to somehow, no, I've heard that on this show and I can empathize with that. But that somehow somewhere in her lifespan, she has the opportunity to then maybe go on to a different soul contract with somebody else, which is also maybe another life purpose. So that's when you're saying different life purposes
Yeah.
might come in.
Yeah, because we can have multiple soul contracts, and if we don't deal with it, like let's take the abusive relationship one because that's a nice easy one to use as an example. If we don't achieve what we really need to with this first person, we might meet someone else that we then continue that soul contract with until we have dealt with it, which might be to learn not to get involved with that kind of person. Um, Similarly, it might be that we do achieve it and it's like brilliant, I've sorted that out, so I'm still going to move on, but I'm going to move on and work on something completely different. um, and so what I see with people a lot is that there's multiple things that have happened in their life that all come together, almost like the starter kit to then get on and do that life purpose.
Yeah, I was thinking a little bit about this conversation that we were going to be having, and I was thinking about my own life, and I was thinking back to all like some of the points where, okay, I made the decision to do this and it happened. I made another decision to do this and it happened. But it didn't just happen because I made the decision. I also put in the action. But that will be going into the next episode, special episode that we're doing, the law of attraction. Anyway, spoiler alert. But I mean, I can kind of look back and I can see where nothing has been random, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, I truly feel that. I look back and I think nothing has been random.
Mm. Yeah. I really honestly don't think there is randomness. It's all opportunity. It's not predestined. That's a totally different thing. But it's like opportunities. And those opportunities have potential for us to achieve A, B, C, D, E, F. And it's up to us whether we grab that opportunity, whether we see that synchronicity, or whether we're going, la, 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 I can't see it. What's going on? And I've done that plenty, so there's no judgment there. It's like, oh, why didn't I see that? Um, and so, sometimes the same thing will crop up multiple times. It's like, wow, that's really weird. I keep dating people that are narcissists, or I keep dating people that da 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 da. And it's not about them, it's about us. And it's about us going, right, I need to look at why that keeps happening. What do I need to work on? What do I need to change so that this no longer needs to happen?
Okay. So so some of the things that are to can help you to discover with your life purpose. So, I mean, I know there's like tools like astrology or numerology, tarot. I mean, what are some of the tools that you can use or that you can go to somebody to help discover what your life purpose is?
Okay.
Especially if you're like lost and going, "Oh, what do I do? I don't know. I'm stuck."
There really are so many tools. It's really about what you're drawn to. If people come to me, I can help them with coaching. I can help them using the Akashic records because that's telling me everything about your soul and will tell you everything you're needing to know. I can use the tarot and do a psychic reading. So there really are, multiple different ways. And I it's so easy these days. We want everything on a plate. Tell me my life purpose. Tell me who I was in a previous life. Tell me what my soul contracts are. Um, Tell me this, 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 and this. And I actually feel that the power is in the journey of discovering a lot of this for yourself. Okay. And it just is more powerful to figure out your guide's name than if I just go, oh, your guide's Mary. It's just not the same. Um, and what I find is that it's teamwork because if you're not ready to know it yet, spirit are not going to reveal it. Sometimes it's the work of figuring out what you're meant to be doing that is actually the growth, and actually doing it is a completely different thing. So, um, I just did a big event, and quite a lot of the people I read for actually were going, oh, what? I don't know what my soul purpose is. What the hell am I here for? And I was able to get them to join the dots up. And not everyone will necessarily agree with me on this one. It's not really something I've had any conversations with other practitioners about. But what I have worked out over the years is that all the signposts are in our history, our life. Okay, so for instance, when I was a kid, and they do say, take a look at the stuff you loved doing as a kid. I really enjoyed playing at librarians because I've always loved books and teaching my toys. I was the teacher, they were the students, and absolutely loved it. I had no desire at all to be a librarian or to be a teacher. However, fast forward, and I've been teaching, not in a school, but teaching the different spiritual stuff that I do for like 15, 16 years. And I love teaching. So there was this little glimmer in my childhood that was a signpost for later on. All the stuff that I've experienced, like critical parents and what have you, it made me very critical of myself, which also made me push to be the best I can be at the stuff that I do. And at the same time, it gave me a great deal of compassion for the people that I'm working with because I know they're being very critical too. And there's never any criticism from spirit, they just don't do that. Um, I love history, always have done. Don't remember not loving history. There's periods that I'm not so hot on, but I do love it. And so when I'm doing the Akashic Records readings, which means we go back and look at the previous lives, or if I'm doing past life regression with somebody, which means they're experiencing it, I can actually fill in the blanks of stuff that's going on. Like they might be in medieval times and they've got a really awful life because they're a female and women just didn't really figure you were there for looking good and childbirth. That was it. But I can help them understand the social dynamic that they had that life in and how that's impacted their soul. And it may well be that that is making them want to be able to do something very different in this life. So a lot of the things that I loved as a child are things that I use even now. And so when I'm working with someone, if I start talking to them about the signposts in their life, you get this little light bulb moment and you can feel their energy change, which is awesome. And like one of the ones at the weekend, she'd been on the IVF journey and she was like, "Yeah, I really want to do something different. I don't want to be." Well, I was saying to her, "You don't want to be full time working with your kid in a nursery and paying some stranger to bring it up for you." And she was like, "Hell no, that's not why I had kids." Um, and it transpired that she really was here to help coach people through that IVF journey because there was not really any support for her in the UK when she was in the I'm trying to get pregnant phase or the I'm pregnant phase. And suddenly these light bulbs were all going off, and you could just see this weight come off of her. And she was like, oh my God, I'm here to help people with this journey that I've just experienced. Don't need a bit of paper because I've got the experience. I just need to go and get the formal bit of paper that says that I can coach or I can mentor or I can counsel, whatever. And there was actually quite a few like that where all the signposts were there. They just hadn't put it all together and gone, "Oh, I could do something with all of those things."
Yeah, for myself, I can think about the points leading to this doing this podcast because years and years and years ago in the 80s when I was in university, I actually studied journalism
Oh,
and I never did anything with it. Um, but, uh and then when I was in Singapore, I really like to interview practitioners. I would interview them live in cafes, and people would come and ask questions, or I would have them come to my apartment, and we would, do it with my laptop and then put it on SoundCloud. Back then it was like MP3. It wasn't, what we've got now, Zoom and whatnot. So I mean, I look at those 2 quite prominent things in my life, and I think, "Well, here I am now, and I'm doing this podcast, and I'm interviewing people, and I really, really like it," and I wasn't actually sure about it, and it's evolved, and I think that that's the thing too with people with their life purpose. They think, "Oh, no, it's this, and that's all it is," and then sometimes it starts and it evolves into other things. So what you're saying is you have more than one life purpose. But, another thing for me particularly that, talk about tools like astrology and numerology is I'm one of these people that I don't like people to tell me how I should be. I really if you want to get on the bad side of me, try doing that. So I find that for myself, I know a lot of people love astrology and they love numerology, but I feel like some of these things box people in to a perception of how they think they should be.
oh god,
And
yeah.
in some ways, I'm very, very happy that there is no time on my birth certificate in the Bahamas. I mean, back then, I guess, it was just like this little piece of paper that said the date and where I was born and who my parents were. There was no time on it at all.
Mm,
And so I'm never able to really get a very accurate, um, what is these life path readings or what
mm.
I can't remember what it's called, or astrology reading because they don't know my time. And for me, I kind of think, well, there's a reason for that. Maybe I'm not supposed to be boxed into what these types of tools are saying and to sort of trust my own intuition, which is hard. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
Well, it's a little bit like holistic practices. You can spend a lot of money to find the one that works for you. So whether it's reflexology, whether it's chiropractor, whether it's psychem, acupuncture, acupressure. And this is why I love things like well-being fairs and pamper nights and things like that. You can go and have little tasters without spending a fortune and see which one works for you because I don't necessarily think they're all going to work for everybody. And it's the same with the tools you just mentioned. Interestingly, I'll send you a lady's number that I worked with, and she did my birth chart, and I don't know what time I was born either. Um, and I said to her, look, my mum said to me that it was 9 o'clock in the morning. And she was able to tell me based on my personality and everything else that was in my chart whether that was likely or completely not. And my partner's mum, I mean, bearing in mind it was a long time ago now, she moves it all over the shop. It was a Thursday, it was a Monday, it was in the morning, it was at night. He doesn't know. But again, she would be able to look at his chart based on what is known and go, no, there is no way that you were born in the morning. It just isn't possible with the other things in your chart and your personality. Just no, because she's just so good at what she does. But maybe not everyone has that ability. But I don't like the labels particularly. Like people come to me and go, "Oh well, I can't have a relationship because I'm Scorpio and we're this and we're that." And I'm not actually up on star signs, so I couldn't tell you if that's true or not. You know, but I'm a Capricorn, and that's like saying all Capricorns are materialistic and good business people. Well, that isn't true. you know, um, so I don't like the labels. I use labels when I'm working with someone who's got a health condition, like if they want to get rid of their fibromyalgia, because that label tells me what beliefs are driving that health problem. And that is about the only time that I like labels. Otherwise, I find that you just, like you say, box yourself in. Like if you're told you're dyslexic and you'll never learn to read, you're going to go, I'm never going to read because I'm dyslexic. That's really not helpful. Um, so it's useful to a point, but I don't like it too much. And I tend to find that life purposes are a lot more general than that. They're not specific, like, oh, you're meant to be a nurse. Okay. The nurse is how you express the fact that you're a healer, but you could equally express that as being a counselor because you're a good listener, or being a teacher because you want to help children with special needs. So how you express it is entirely up to you, but it's about what you're meant to be expressing. And life purpose is generally about being of service to humanity. And so, if you do that by making music or making your podcasts, or if you do that by making fabulous clothes, it's still expression. So,
Yeah. And do you think it's important that somebody try to find out what their life path is?
mm, yeah, definitely. Because your soul needs to feel that it's thriving and that it's learning and that it's growing and it's got purpose and it's got meaning. And so, if we're just going through our life on autopilot and not having that, then that doesn't sound like a lot of fun to me. But also, I think it can come down to timing. We were talking about motherhood earlier on. And so, it may well be that if you're a mum, you're not getting to express your life purpose until after you've had your children, or you started and then the children came along and it sort of went on hold and then you pick it up again. So, it doesn't have to be rock solid from the day you're born to the day you die, because there's other things that can come in and get in the way. But you can still be a compassionate person, whether you're a mother looking after elderly parents or whatever the scenario is. So there's still ways to express it.
Okay. So what advice would you give to somebody if they wanted to start looking into and trying to figure out what their life purpose is?
Okay. I would write down the themes or the significant things that have happened in your life. So for instance, at the weekend, someone was telling me that they'd been at university and they'd done this course and it really wasn't for them, and they were just like drifting around trying to figure it all out. And it turned out that they'd had lots of addiction issues in the family around them. And then we spoke about how this could be used to help loads of people. And again, light bulb moment. And she was like, oh my God, yeah, totally. So, she wants to go and look at different ways to help people get to the root of their addiction and clear it and move on. So, when you look at the history that you've been through, have you had lots of mental health issues, either yourself, with your family, or the immediate people around you? So, it doesn't have to have happened to you. You may have had, I don't know, three people in the family with serious health issues. Or you may find that lots of people in your life have had abuse or had addiction issues in their family, not necessarily to them. And it's like, yeah, why do these people keep coming into my life? Why do I keep having the people with the trauma or the addiction or the narcissism or whatever it is? And that will be the universe kind of training you. I call it the apprenticeship, that apprenticeship of gaining all that knowledge and that first-hand experience of being around those people, so that when it comes to actually expressing it, people know that you haven't just read a book and gone, oh yeah, according to the book this happens. Okay, it may be that you had a terrible time of being pregnant and you desperately don't want to have any more kids because of it. And actually, you're meant to be a birth doula. And that gives you and everyone else a more amazing experience of being pregnant and having babies. And so it's it's about finding those things that stand out in our life and going, right, and what do I want to do with that knowledge? Do I want to help people? Do I want to train people? Do I want to eradicate that problem from the face of the earth? It can be anything depending on how you want to be.
Okay, interesting, interesting. I can just I'm thinking about, like, some of the guests that I've had on, and I'm thinking about some of the things that they told me about how they grew up and things that they had, and then what they do now, and I think, "Wow, it's exactly true what you're saying," because that's what they end up doing now is kind of related to something that happened in the past that
Mm.
sort of drove them to do that. Interesting, interesting. Okay. So obviously, you can help people discover their life purpose, as you've been mentioning with some clients that have come to you. So, how do you do that? Do you use tarot, or what exactly are the tools that you're using in case anybody's interested in contacting you?
Okay. So it depends on exactly what I'm doing. So I do a 1 day workshop that is just about life purpose. And there's a group of us, and we just drill through different exercises to get the information and to work with it and speak to our guides and get confirmation. So there's that. If I'm doing a one-to-one session, then either we can do coaching, which is much more like teamwork. And again, we'll drill through things specifically for you rather than as the group. And I can do the tarot and the Akashic records. And so it really depends how the person wants to work with me.
Okay. Okay. So all the contact information, as usual, for Tracy will be in the show notes, and then you've probably seen it also at the bottom here, her website address. So please do reach out to Tracy because I think that she's obviously got 15, 16 years of experience. That's what you just said. So she's been helping people for quite some time. And if you haven't already listened to, go back and listen to the previous special episodes that we've had together. And make sure you join us the next time because we are going to be talking about the law of attraction. And this will be the final special episode with Tracy. So don't miss it. Be sure to come back and listen. Anyway, Tracy, thank you so much. And we will be talking the next time. And thank you, listeners.
Thank
Until the
you.
next time, bye, everybody.
Bye.